When we think of the Roman Empire, we often picture a single, massive juggernaut ruling the Mediterranean. But one of the most defining moments in its history was actually its division. At the end of the 4th century, the empire was split in two, marking the final time the ancient world would be governed as a single political entity. Now, you have to ask yourself, Rome had plenty of emperors before this, who managed the whole show on their own. So, why, in the year 395, was the empire permanently divided? And even more interestingly, why was there never a serious attempt to glue it back together? Before we dive in, we need to clear up a huge misconception. When the empire split into the West and the East, with their own separate courts, emperors, and economies, nobody living at that time thought they were living in two different countries. To them, it was still just Rome, just under new management. This wasn't the first time Rome had tried this. Emperors like Diocletian or the sons of Constantine had split responsibilities before. But this time, the split would stick until the West completely collapsed. To understand why, you have to look at the state of the world in the 4th century. Frankly, Rome was not having a good time. They were dealing with invasions constantly hammering the frontiers, deep religious arguments tearing society apart from the inside, and civil wars popping up everywhere. On top of that, conflict with the Persian Empire was stretching the Roman state to its absolute breaking point. Throughout the century, leadership was a mixed bag. Sometimes you had one emperor ruling everything. Other times, they had a deputy, known as a Caesar, to help out. Essentially, the system was, whatever the strongest guy says, goes. This chaos continued until a man named Theodosius the Great stepped onto the stage. Theodosius defeated his rivals and stood as the sole emperor of Rome. But he knew that upon his death, the empire needed a succession plan to survive. So he declared his two sons, Honorius and Arcadius, as co-rulers. One would take the west, the other the east. When Theodosius died in 395, that was it. From that moment on, no single person would ever rule over the entire Roman Empire again until the West fell. But here is the million-dollar question. Why didn't the East just take the West back? The harsh truth is, there was almost no reason to do so. The western half was clearly the fixer-upper of the two. It was significantly weaker. The emperor, sitting in Constantinople, was consistently viewed as the senior partner compared to the guy in Ravenna. That's right, Rome wasn't even the capital of the West anymore. And speaking of Rome, when the Visigoths sacked the city in 410, it was just the cherry on top of a crumbling disaster. Now, it's not that the East completely ignored their Western cousins. The Eastern Emperor did interfere occasionally, appointing leaders or sending troops to fight off invasions. But they never tried to claim direct rule over the West. Why? Two main reasons. First, quite simply, nobody wanted to inherit that mess. The Western economy was in shambles, and corruption was rampant. They had enemies attacking from the outside and rotting institutions on the inside. For the Eastern emperors, taking direct control of the West looked like a lost cause. It was a sinking ship. Tying their fate to the West would only drag the East down with it. It was smarter to just send some supplies, wish them luck, and hope for the best. The second reason was survival. The East wasn't exactly living in paradise either. They had their own massive headaches to deal with. The Ostrogoths, the Huns, and the Persians were all knocking on Constantinople's door. Stabilizing their own borders was the priority. Running half the empire was hard enough. Doubling their workload by taking on the broken West was a no-go. It might sound cold-hearted, leaving the West to fall, but ultimately, this policy worked. After the West collapsed, the East remained standing. They even managed to retake a good chunk of territory later, under Justinian I, though that success didn't last forever. By cutting the dead weight, the East preserved the Roman legacy for another 1,000 years. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into Roman history. A special thanks to our patrons for making this possible. See you in the next one.